Well, here we go. I'm just off, leaving the island. Onto the Kennet. And 3 locks down, and I'll be on the Thames. Just where I want to be. In the distance, you can see the first lock that we've got to go through. Apparently there's going to be a nice cafe built next to this in the next year or so, which will be a nice stop for an ice cream, I guess, on the way home maybe. So, first lock, here we come. Looks as though there's a boat coming up. Saves me the effort of actually doing the lock. We're just approaching Footbridge Lock, which has a very nasty side current just after the lock and an odd landing stage for a canal at the bottom of the lock. It's quite a nasty one when there's a lot of current flowing, because you get pushed across, as we're going now, you get pushed across to the right hand side of the river. So beware Footbridge Lock and the old watermill, which is the building you can see in front of us in the distance. Another thing to notice, this is a very large lock and it's very slow as well. Very slow lock to get through. I've just helped this couple through the lock, and now it's my turn to go through Footbridge Lock. Here we go. The famous Footbridge Lock. Another thing about this lock is that the landing stage at the bottom of the lock is on the left hand side, and at the top of the lock it's on the right hand side. So you have to remember to cross over the lock as you're going through, otherwise you end up in trouble. So I'm coming in on the right hand gate and I'm going to go out on the left hand gate as I leave the lock. Many of the locks on the K&A are in a terrible state. You can see the amount of leakage through here. The sills are blown, there's water coming through the bottom of the lock, really bad condition. It needs a lot of work to fix it. A lot of the Kennet and Avons like this. Well, again, thanks to a couple helping me out. That lock was quicker than I was expecting. I'm just over an hour out and I've done the 2 locks before Blake's, which is after you go through Reading and a Thames type lock. So I'll show you that when we get there. And yeah, this is the River Kennet, flowing reasonably quickly down to Reading from Newbury. Maybe not all the way to Newbury, but you know what I mean. Making very good time. Be on the Thames in less than an hour, I should think. By certainly by 1:30. I always find this part of Reading very pretty, actually. I don't know what road this is, but the house is back onto the canal, the river here, the River Kennet. And some of them have their own little moorings, as you can see. Just in front of us there on the right, that house has a mooring. And it really is very pretty. Must be lovely having one of these houses with water frontage. Have a little boat and just escape up the Thames. There's only 2 locks to the Thames now. I always forget County Lock when I'm counting my way down. County Lock is the tiniest drop you'll see in a minute. It has 2 sets of paddles on the gates, which is a bit weird, but it does let you down to the traffic light system that takes you through the Oracle, which you'll see as well. Just up here on the left is an enormous block of flats being built. It's gone up recently. Last summer that was started, and as you can see there, they've got the crane in and they're well on their way to completing it. Very strong side current here, you can actually see in the water. The sign on the left warns you of it. Of course you can't read it because it's obscured by bushes now, but you can see in the water that side current. So the thing to do is to go through it flat out, and that avoids pushing you around so much. God only knows what this is going to look like when it's done. I hope it's not too hideous. 1, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. I bet these houses are well chuffed about the flats being built just opposite them. Probably not. I always love these pretty decorated Victorian cottages here as well. So just through this bridge on the right is County Lock, and I'm going to have to put the camera down to get moored up for that. Hopefully it'll be ready for us. Got to keep right, and this is the last lock on the Kennet and Avon before you get to Blake's, which is the lock that lets you onto the Thames. You'll see that. So this is the mighty massive County Lock in Reading, which drops all of about an inch, no, about a foot. It's not very much anyway. And just in front of the lock you can see the traffic lights that take you through the Oracle, a one-way system. So I'm just going to empty the lock, which is by this weir on the Kennet, and then we can go through. This one's a bit unusual in that it has 2 sets of gate paddles on each gate, top and bottom. There you go, you can see the drop on the edge there. It's about a foot so far, and I think it's nearly done. You can actually see the paddles. Virtually down to the paddles already. I seem to recall this issue being quite a problem. The lock gates just swing open when you go through them and you can't get them both shut. Absolute nightmare, this one. I'll try and shut them, but if it doesn't succeed I'll have to just abandon the idea. Right, let's see what happens now. It went green straight away. What a piece of luck. No one coming. We can just get on and get through the Oracle section. And here we go. So as you can see, there are some very low bridges to get through. I'm fine with the canopy down, but some of them I always feel I'm going to scrape if the canopy's up, especially the one on an angle. So in front of you, you can see the shopping centre, the Reading Oracle, and we're going to drive straight through the middle of it. In front of the newer bridge you can see the older bridge, and this one always giving me the creeps, getting the right angle under it, not to hit the sides. Of course the canopy's down, so it's not so bad. There's actually more headroom than you would think. This is the last really low bridge before you get to Osney on the Thames. Again, no problem with the canopy down. But you can see plenty of scrapes along the top where boats have gone under it, caught. Next stop, Blake's Lock. Well, that was Blake's Lock, and a very helpful couple got me through it. So I didn't have to do any work myself. I can't believe it. 2.5 hours, less than, and I'm on the Thames. And that bridge you can see down there in the distance is the Brunel Bridge, the railway running over the Kennet. And after we get through that, we are on the Thames. See the old gas holder up there to the left. Not many of them left anymore. That is obviously not seeing very much usage these days. Little cottages called Kennet Side. Okay, the second one's the Brunel Bridge. And that's it, we're on the Thames after that. And there's another boat coming up. And there is the magnificent Thames. All sorts of interesting boats on the Thames. Chrysoprase 1899, what a beauty. And then you get things like this and it's someone's home. It's fine. I just hope they stay afloat. Just coming up into Caversham now, and this boatyard on the right, very handy if you want to fill up with diesel. They were very reasonably priced, self-declaring, and they had a nice little interesting chandlery. 89p a litre for diesel here. Better Boating, it's called. Better Boating Company. I really quite like that. And very soon we'll be at Caversham Lock. See a bit more of Reading as we come through. Just round this corner is Caversham Lock, straight into the lock. I hope that's not a queue. It could be a queue for the lock. It is a queue for the lock. Okay, such is life. We should all fit actually. These are much bigger locks than the canal. Sadly there's a queue at Caversham Lock. It's been very slow apparently, and this great big thing isn't going to help either. Well, luckily we both did fit into Caversham Lock, and up we go. Lock keepers as ever are helpful and pleasant. And we're going up our first lock on the Thames. Right, so that's Reading Bridge, and we're coming into Caversham proper now. And that's the Caversham Footbridge in the distance that you can see. Moored under that a couple of years back. There are some unusual places on the river, like this bowls club on an island on the Thames in Reading. So you have to get a boat across to it to actually play there. But why not? One of these big boats here on the right at Caversham Boating Services is one of the original little boats, little ships that went across to Dunkirk to save the British Army in 1940. Princess Marina, that could well have been her. I'm not sure which though. And this is the big Caversham Bridge. And after this there are no more bridges or locks till Mapledurham, which is quite a way. So unless I see something particularly interesting, I won't be filming anymore. Some of the houses along here are nothing short of stunning. I think one of these is a funny half house. There it is. Half a house. Another beauty. Tumble down boathouses. Some of them are quite spectacular boathouses, but that one's a bit tumble down. Look at that. What an amazing house. Now I've seen this lovely old thatched boathouse a number of times as I've come up and down the Thames, and sadly it's in a terrible state. It's starting to fall to pieces here. The thatch is all coming out of the front of it. And it doesn't look too good, does it? That's worse than last time I came through. One big storm and all that's going to come off. Looks like the balcony's about to fall into the river as well. Probably cost an awful lot to do it up, and people who have the house can't afford it. What a pity. Just up ahead here you can see the railway. Zoom in for you if we can. That's the railway running alongside the Thames. And on the wall on the left here, high up, there's a post box. I'll show you it in a second. It's a joke one. Sadly, it's not a real one. It's a joke one made of plastic. And obviously there's nothing behind it and no collections are made. But it's always amusing when you drive past to see it. And yes, there it is. It's starting to lose its red round the slot, sadly. Right, we're coming up to Mapledurham Lock. I don't know if you can see it through the trees there, but that is the Elizabethan Mapledurham house. Very pretty to have a look round, lovely gardens and grounds. And in the there's an old mill, and they've got a hydroelectric power plant in the mill, but you can't see it from the river sadly. So just ahead of us now is the lock. We're approaching Mapledurham Lock. I'm not too sure what's going on with that wide beam, but we're moving up to the lock. Hopefully we can get in the next locking through and we'll be sorted. Once you're a decent way out of Reading, the Thames becomes quite remote. Look ahead, you can see there's virtually nothing on the river. There's a pylon in the distance, way off in the distance. But really, there's nothing either side. A few fields, there's no buildings, no roads, no railway. Very quiet and very remote. It's absolutely lovely, the Thames up here. Majestic and beautiful. Right, still going upstream, we're now approaching Whitchurch Lock. The white bridge you can see is a toll bridge across the river. The odd car going across it there. Don't know if you can see that in the distance, but I can. There's a car just went across this white iron bridge structure. And we need to get into the lock, which is on an island, I believe. We'll see that when we get there. Well, there's Whitchurch Bridge. Looks as though there's a bit of a queue for the lock. Always a pain when you have to wait in the middle of the river. But they're moving up, which is a good sign. Hopefully we'll get onto a landing stage at least. Not as bad as I'd feared. At least we'll get onto the landing stage. I love the pretty riverside inn and the boat sheds along here. It's very pretty. We've just come through Whitchurch Lock. And this stretch of river is quite stunning. There are some amazing houses I'll show you in a minute on the left hand side of the river as we go upstream. A couple of fine old power tugs here on the right. Seven Enterprise and Endeavour. Beautiful things, aren't they? And here's this beautiful row of houses. 1896, that one says on the front of it. Yeah, they're alongside the road, but they've got the river frontage. And aren't they lovely? These late Victorian mansions all the way along this stretch. Quite stunning. What a wonderful place to live. We saw one of these for sale last time we came down, and they were surprisingly reasonably priced. Actually, that one there, it was about £1 million, which for a beautiful huge house like that with river frontage is really quite reasonable. Between the trees there's a thatched cottage in a very tumble down state. Can't see it anymore, there's just the top of it there. I'll hold this up, the chimney's sticking up out of it. And I'll just pan across so you can see these stunning mansions alongside the river here. So they're up a little bit, sort of 10 feet up above the river. So if there's a flood, you'll never get flooded out. Well, hopefully. And each of them has this river frontage. What a beautiful place. Just a shame about the road right in front of you. If you look up there, some of them have tried to make something of their gardens. Even though it's a very steep slope, there's a path going up this one to a sort of a gazebo and a summer house at the top. There we go, lovely row of houses. Well, there's been nothing along the right hand bank for ages, and then all of a sudden you come across this beautiful boathouse. Passing on our left is Beal Park, Beal Wildlife Trust, which is depressingly near Reading, but never mind. We're still making our way up the Thames, and you can moor on the left here against the bank of Beal Trust for free for 24 hours. That's what these white signs on the bank say. Free mooring for 24 hours maximum. So that's quite nice. If you need to stop for the night, you can stop here. And being a wildlife trust, it's actually a reasonably pleasant place. Here we go under this amazing brick bridge with the skewed arch. Well, one arch is skewed and one arch isn't. It looks like they doubled the bridge up at some point to have more lines on the railway. So we'll see this as we go underneath. This one's skewed and the second arch is straight. Always some lovely houses along the banks of the Thames. This one's no exception. Quite stunning. There are also sadly some beautiful big old houses like this that have been completely left derelict, all boarded up, as you can see. Heaven only knows what that place was. It looks a bit like Bray Film Studios, which is a lot further down the river towards London, which is a very similar white house where many Hammer horror films were made. And that's all boarded up and derelict too. Quite sad to see. The garden's all gone to ruin. Once a beautiful home. Another thing you'll see plenty of are these old World War II blockhouses. This was obviously a very important line of defence should the Germans invade during World War II. Luckily they didn't. Some of these big old houses up the hill have amazing summer houses like this to sit in, although this one looks as though it may have been built in the 60s and seen better days. Very pretty houses and lawns though. What I don't understand is why you would have a beautiful place like this with river frontage and moorings and not have a boat. Now we've just come to the bottom of Goring Lock, and sadly I'm sorry to say that all the moorings seem to be taken. It looks like it's solid all the way up to the bridge. Oh, hang on, I might get a mooring in behind that big thing. We'll see if we can get in there. Looks like there might be room. Well, I did make it to Goring Lock in the end, as you can see. That is Goring Lock, and there's the weir over to the left. It's going to create white noise all night, which will be very good. Won't hear it very much, but it'll help to dampen the noise of the cars. Anyway, I arrived here literally, I suppose, 5:45, 5:45. I would have carried on, but for the fact that it had just started raining. So I quickly pulled up on the very last space on the lock lay-by. As you can see, I'm just going to turn around and show you that. The last space, literally, because if you look back, if you look back, you can see the entire landing stage, bottom of Goring Lock, is completely rammed with boats all the way down. It's full. So I'm very lucky to have got here when I did.